So let's discuss and bring in one of our favorite police officers, former police officer, Dominick Izzo. Dominick, thank you so much for joining me. You join me on all sorts of topics, but this one I think is probably the best one in your wheelhouse. That's why we're going to play just a little game. Fill in the blank for me. This problem is going to continue unless blank.
I'm going to go a different direction for you. Unless police officers are doing a different job. I actually think we know that there's a war on cops, and it started under the Obama administration with his famous line that the Cambridge police acted stupidly. That started the war on police. I honestly think, to be honest, that, and it's going to be unpopular with my brethren and sisters in blue, they have to start stepping up to the plate a little bit more. They know that they're under scrutiny from politicians, the public. They're going to be the next YouTube sensation. If they do anything wrong, their departments are increasing by giving them more policy to take away less ability. And here they are. The quality of candidate that's coming on the street, the amount of training that's being done, these cops that are making goofs of themselves on social media and these TikTok videos. I honestly think that we have a police officer who's, I'm generalizing on this, that's not very tactical, that's not very aware, and they're stressed out from the last several years of being just completely villainized by the public and politicians, and their mental health is suffering so big that we're seeing this increase in violence against them because they're not ready for battle. That is where my head is at on this. So I think it's their responsibility to start stepping up to play a little bit more and get their heads in the game.
But it's one of those things. It's almost like the head before the tail, tail before the head. They're going to keep chasing one another. So how do you stop that cycle? And do you think this has a correlation between the rise in crime that we're seeing and the lowering of mortality or lowering of attitudes within the police between law enforcement?
Yeah, 100%. I think that the cops have to start just go back to basics. What I would like to see is I would like to see more cops know what their job is. There's far too many police officers out there that are being on those First Amendment audits that are making their way to YouTube that don't even know their jobs. We're seeing far too many police officers that are just, again, I have to go back to this, that are not tactically sound on the streets. So you know that the politicians aren't going to change. You know that you're always going to be, when you get that badge, swear that oath, you might as well start thinking, I am the bad guy. I am the bad guy, and nothing I could do is ever going to be right. And every 2 years, I'm going to be leveraged for an election purpose. So what can I do to make things better? And you're going to spend 20 years in that job, and it's going to be hell a lot of ways. It's not going to be this cakewalk. So start doing your job a lot better. Start taking this a lot more seriously. And I honestly think that the onus is going to have to go back on police, and that's going to be very unpopular.
Well, you mentioned training. How do you think the training has changed since you went through it 20 years ago, 10 years ago, versus even 2 years ago?
Training, it's two aspects of it. It's not enough. So like for my department, we went to the range twice a year, maybe twice a year, right? So if you have a police officer who's responsible for every single round that is discharged from their gun, you want them scoring immaculate on every test. Can't do that if you go twice a year. But what they do convolute every officer is, here's training on this mental health, here's training on this thing, and they're expecting the responsibility of peace officers to grow and grow and grow. They're compounding with department policy, with more laws that are coming out. These men and women, they can't keep on top of this stuff. And the basic stuff, which is what the public complains the most about, that is the least trained. So what you do have is, and it's always physicality, it's use of force. You have a bunch of scared kids. And again, I've been very public about this. I don't think a cop should be a cop at 21. I think it should be raised to 30 for the minimum age. You have boys and girls out there who are going to increase their level of use of force because they're not trained. Public is going to see that. You're going to get riots in the streets for what happens.
And that's unfortunately, I think, what we're seeing. But then you also have to look at what society has deemed. It used to be, growing up, kids would be like, oh, I want to be a police officer. I want to be a police officer. You're probably not seeing as much of that today. A lot of because the police officers have been so demonized. Yesterday at the Super Bowl, Eminem actually took a knee, all in support of Black Lives Matter. But what does public displays like this do to the morale of law enforcement when there's not an equal support of Blue Lives Matter? So I guess popular in culture today.
Get ready for the next wave of police officers to come in. You're going to see these veterans retire in mass force. What you're going to get is you're going to get the yes, sir, and the yes, oh, absolutely, sir. We need to go to John Smith's home today and take away their guns because he made a statement on social media. Oh, yeah, we're going to get the worst quality of candidate for police officer coming up. You're going to see a massive increase in problems because you don't have the really righteous men and women on the street, and you're going to see law enforcement change. I can honestly see, because everyone's been talking about federalized police for the last God knows how many years. I think within the next 10 years, because of the quality of candidates coming out, that might actually happen.
Well, then you see the reverse of what's going on in Canada right now, and you have law enforcement being used there to arrest their own citizens. How do you respond to that? That's almost the exact different opposite of what's going on here in the United States.
No, that's still going on here. I was very torn when you had NYPD had the shooting and 2 officers died because for the last several weeks, NYPD was harassing citizens with masks and mandates. So any cop light out there, it's domestic terrorism. They are no blue line supporter, no blue line brethren whatsoever. So they have to return to the Constitution, remember their job, get in line, remember who they work with, who they work for, and who they return to when their job is over.
And hopefully all of them are just as good.